Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the Decade Old podcast. My name is Conor Curie and I'm joined by Gloria Shannon.
Hiya.
Karen O'Sullivan.
Hi.
And Richard Travers.
Buenas noches.
And this episode on the podcast we are covering the second quarter of 2007, and the four movies we've chosen for this week are Ratatouille, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, Mr. Brooks and Bug. And we're going to kick off everything with Ratatouille. So, Karen, take it away.
Yeah, Ratatouille was my choice. It's an animated feature film about a rat called Remy who has this super sense of taste and smell and likes to cook. So he goes off to a restaurant in Paris by accident with the chef who used to own it, Gusteau, kind of like his ghost advisor in the film, and controls this young fella like he's a puppet so that he can cook in a restaurant. That's essentially the main plot line.
I think it falls pretty easily into the good but not great Pixar category.
Whoa.
I
Whoa.
kind of agree. Like, if you think about the great Pixar films, it's not a Toy Story.
Whoa.
But
No, it's not a Toy Story. What's
Whoa.
the woes? What's
This
the
is
woes?
easily top 3 Pixar, lads. Fucking plebs.
What are the other
Seriously?
two?
Yes, it's
In
fucking savage.
What are the other two in comparison to
Incredibles
this?
and Toy Story.
You think this is as good as Toy Story?
Yes,
No.
I do. It's fucking savage.
Well,
Toy Story pulls on your heartstrings. This just kind of is like, okay, there's a rat cooking dinner.
But it's so comfy. Like, the Paris setting and the characters are so down to earth. Like, it's lovely.
I do think it's a well done film. It is still like, comparing to other animation, if you get the Pixar comparisons out of the way, it is a good film. It works.
It's amazing.
It's a bit weird, but like, it works.
okay. So, I liked it well enough, but just even from the beginning, it has that. It's one of those societal outcast dreams of more.
'Cause it's French.
Animated films like Brave or A Bug's Life. It's like when it starts off with the character who doesn't fit well into society. He sees things differently. He sees the world differently than the rest of his peers. You know he's going to go off on his own adventure at one point. You know he's going to meet back up with his friends and family at another point. It's like when it starts off already with that really, really well established trope. It's like this made Ratatouille more predictable than, say, WALL-E.
I just found that it didn't even, like, I don't remember, like, lolling at it. I don't remember laughing out loud the way I have with the likes of Toy Story and things like that, or I don't remember being like, oh god, I really feel for this little rat. Now maybe that's my thing because I don't like rats, but
People really laugh out loud at Pixar movies. Like, none of them are really knee slappers, honestly. Like,
yeah, but I don't even remember having a little chuckle or a giggle at anything
But to
particular.
your point, the one thing people can always say about Pixar movies is they're always tearjerkers. And I like the characters, but I didn't feel all that much empathy with them.
What? No way.
Especially compared to other Pixar movies.
but at the end, when he shows him it's the rat, he doesn't even have to, but he does it anyway. And the lad who's a cunt is pure sound about
But
it.
it's
amazing.
not a tearjerker, you're right in that sense, and it never was. Like, I saw this film in the cinema 10 years ago, and it's not like the likes of Up, which is a Pixar film that you're crying before it's even the first scene
Yeah.
is over. It isn't, but it's a light-hearted enough film, and
It's comfy.
like, it does follow a very, like, you know, you said the trope is there, like, it is following almost that script.
It
It's
follows-
just doing it with rats.
It follows well.
But it is a
tread
children's movie.
Yeah, I'd like to see. I should have watched it with children because I'd like to see what they would have thought of it. Because I don't know. It didn't like. It was. I think it was a really good film, but it just wasn't. Like, I suppose I'm just comparing it to Pixar, other Pixar movies, and it just wasn't even in my top 5 Pixar movies.
I wouldn't
probably.
rank it anywhere near, say, Toy Story 2
Yeah, no,
or WALL-E or Up.
you know.
Number 3 for me.
Or
I
even
don't
Monster
think
Inc.
there was much chemistry between the kid and the girl that, like, what's her name?
Colette.
Colette.
Yeah.
Like, that was forced completely by that rat.
No, I wasn't feeling it. And also, they had chemistry all of their character development came within like one montage. It's like she's being really cold and rude to him, she's being really cold and rude to him, and then all of a sudden they're friends.
It's called being
And then
sundown.
it's like 30 seconds, okay, that's it, we've gotten that out of the way, they're in a romantic relationship now.
But I
Yeah.
think it was not even necessary to the plot of the movie.
Yeah, it didn't really. Yeah,
It
you
kind
didn't
of-
need her.
No.
Like,
You could have just had him being a dick all of his own. Like, you didn't have to get a girlfriend for that.
Do you not think that she was just an alright character though on her own?
yeah, but I think she. Yeah, I think.
But I
she's-
think she was nearly better just being left on her own.
Yeah. I don't think it makes sense for someone like her to be with it. I don't know. They
Yeah.
just don't match. They don't seem like a real life couple, and she seems older and more mature than the young fella.
Well, here's the thing, here's why the romance didn't work for me. And I know this is silly because it's a kids movie and it's basically a cartoon, but I don't know what she would see in him.
He is wide.
I don't see what she is attracted to because he is a klutz and incompetent, and
What's
she is
the
the
name
opposite
of
of
the
that.
young
Yeah, but
passion.
you have to remember when she does fall for him, though, right? She does think he's some sort of food genius because he can make these amazing
Yeah,
dishes,
fair
and
enough,
he's
yeah.
never had any formal training. She doesn't
So they do
realize
have,
Yeah,
there's
they
a
do have
rat
cooking in
underneath her.
common. And like, he wasn't even going to kiss her. The rat instigated that entire
Yeah.
thing. She was about to pepper spray him to Timbuktu.
As much as I prefer 2D animation, I'm looking at this and you can actually make out every individual hair. You can see like textures in the pavements. You can make out specks of dirt.
Yeah,
It's about
looks
it-
pretty realistic, like.
Like Paris, the backgrounds in Paris look fucking amazing.
Here's right. I remember must have been my brother or something. He stumbled across this website, this comedy website, maybe sometime in the mid 2000s. There was a list of movie cliches, and one of them was the Eiffel Tower is visible from every window in Paris, and that has stuck with me for the rest
Well,
of my life.
that definitely held
Yeah.
true. in
And
Paris.
it is visible in every window.
Even his really crappy apartment still had a view of the Eiffel Tower.
Gotta remind the
He
audience
couldn't
that this is
afford that
Paris.
view.
If all the stereotypical food and the stereotypical accents,
Wasn't
and
enough, like.
yeah,
Jerry Lewis dances down the street as Gerard Depardieu looks down his nose at a foreigner.
I
I don't think that matters that much in a kids movie.
still think if we landed Fitzy in that kitchen, he would be that kid. Like, with
which
your,
kid?
Really?
The really,
The one that being
because like
used
the
as,
yeah, because the first thing he did the reason he started messing with the soup in the first place is because he knocked it over, which is something you could easily accidentally do and try to fix.
No, Fitzy would forget about the soup.
Just let it fall.
I don't think you tried to fix it. I think you'd just be like, ooh, kind of messed that up.
I remember when I was in home economics in first year, my Christmas exams, we had to make a lemon cake. Everyone else's came out of the oven. It was grand, it looked fine. Mine came out of the oven and it was just flat.
And you not put any raising agent in it?
I can't remember what the fuck I did. I think I just mixed whatever I could in the amount of time I had left and just threw whatever I had in the oven,
I think
hoping for the best.
I think I can beat you. My first year end of the summer exam, I was baking chili con carne, and I remembered as it was being served that I never put on rice. So me not thinking, just thinking poured the raw rice on top of the chili con carne mixture.
Oh man.
Oh God, Karen!
And your examiners ate that?
Like I had been cooking for a
What-
little while, but
What
just
did
not
you
enough.
get?
I still passed. Which was an extra crunch.
Just
to
grabbing
it.
just grabbing
Extra
grabbing a
crunch
sliced
to it.
pan would have been better than that.
Well, like I had the rice cooking this, I knew not long enough
Yeah.
because I'd forgotten to like the last few minutes. So I quickly just tossed into water, and she was coming. So I was like, "Yeah, that'll do."
Karen fucked up minute rice.
Are you familiar with the actor who does the voice of the film critic,
Peter O'Toole.
Peter O'Toole?
Yeah, he said.
Yeah, he's dead now, unfortunately,
Oh, no.
but he was one of the greatest actors of all time, and I miss him. My mum met Peter O'Toole, or so she says.
Told me the story 50 times.
I've told you this story.
Yeah.
So what's the
Met him
story?
in Galway in a play or something.
What?
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember the Galway part, but what was the thing? If I've told you the story, what is the one thing she noticed about him then?
His name's O'Toole, which means Mickey, I don't know.
He had really rotten yellow teeth.
Oh.
I still liked a few little one-liners in this film that I found funny.
I thought the sleep scene was really funny where he's asleep.
Yeah.
And he makes that face like he's like a pikey from Limerick City.
You know, he has a sunglass on, he's asleep, but Mimi's controlling
Oh, yeah.
him, and she's like...
Yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
The budget, as you can guess, for all these Pixar movies is astronomical for an animated film. It's 150 million. But it did make that back and then some. The box office was 620 million. So Pixar, I don't think they've never really had anything that wasn't a major success, right?
Does this mean
Everyone-
now, 10 years later, we're going to get a sequel like Remy in high school or something? Yeah. It's going to be savage.
I think they'll probably just do Cars 4 or something.
Up to...
Are they not already doing Cars 4?
Yeah, is Cars 4 not the one that's coming out? Is that Cars 3? I've kind of lost count.
Is there a Cars 4?
There's
Cars
There's
3
a
is
Cars
out
4
now.
coming out.
Literally,
Like,
I
in,
just-
the cinema right now, there
It's
is a
like
Cars
all
film.
these young ones, you know, are coming in and they've got all this powerful like equipment and everything and built into their cars, and now what's his face of Lightning McQueen needs to learn how to readjust and to retrain
He
himself
can't
differently.
drive faster, but he can
He can
drive smarter.
They're bringing George Carlin back from the dead to do his car.
As a matter of interest, just before we get off this topic, what do you believe is the best Pixar film?
Toy Story. Or
What,
Toy
Toy
Story
Story 1?
2.
Toy Story.
I'm going to go with Toy Story 2.
Toy Story 2. Karen, you're odd.
Okay, moving on to our next quote-unquote film. It's Aqua Teen Hunger Force : movie film for theaters.
Yep.
Richard, this was your decision. You put us through this.
Yeah.
You fucking describe this film.
Aqua Teen Hunger Force Cola movie for theatres is about Master Shake and Milkshake, Frylock, a floating bag of chips with magic wizard powers, and he's a scientist, and Meatwad, the little ball of meat who's kind of retarded or a child, I'm not too sure. They all try to find a piece for the fitness machine called the Hasiloflex to get really fit and hit up on loads of women. They stole the machine from the next door neighbour, a middle-aged, fat, drunken, angry, surly man called Carl, who's basically me in 10 years. And they go to find the piece off a weird old doctor called Dr. Weird. And along the way they meet about 50 aliens and a robot. And I kind of like it.
This might be the shortest review we've ever done. I don't know what to say about this. It was barely a film. I can't think of any. It was completely incomprehensible to me.
We watched it.
You
That-
would watch it.
That's my
I
comment.
think it's something that should have been just condensed down to 15 minutes of some weird cartoon like segment.
But that is the series.
Yeah, that's the series.
Yeah.
The series are like
that's
10
the
minutes
series,
long.
But the series should stay that way. Of 1 hour and 40 minutes of my life, I will never get back.
Okay.
Did it not?
And I'm on a diet and it made me want McDonald's. So flying fries were literally like, please, and they were shaped like McDonald's fries.
Richard, okay.
Yeah.
Now, in all seriousness, and I'm genuinely asking this, did you actually find this funny?
I find a lot of bits of it funny. One bit that annoys me the most is they do a lot of that anti-humour stalling for time, which is obviously just to pad out time
Yeah.
because they go from 11 minutes to about 80 minutes. You know, what the hell are they going to do? And yeah, it is the very alienating kind of anti-humour, gross-out humour, all this kind of stuff that you'd never conventionally put into anything, you know, because why would you? Like, it would, you know, freak out people.
Okay, but here's what I want to know. How is this any different from some bog standard Flash animation you would have seen on Newgrounds back in the day?
Well,
It just as much talent and creativity went into it, and it's just as funny.
I don't know, it's not Flash, it's Photoshop animated, if that makes it any better.
Whatever.
It has a lot of A-list, well, not A-list,
Yeah,
but a
no,
lot of
actually,
surprise cameos.
it fucking makes it worse because at least in Flash you're animating stuff.
It has Tina Fey in it. It has John H. Benjamin, Neil Peart. It has all these
Bruce
people.
Campbell apparently.
Bruce
I
Campbell is
couldn't
Chicken
find him.
Brittle, yeah. Who and this is on a budget of $750,000. Like, this is under $1 million. That's nothing for a cartoon movie. Like,
This is one of these. This is a brand of humor I think I hate the most. it's like lol so random humor.
No, it's not
It
quite
is.
Lal-so random humor. No, if it was Lal-so humor, it'd be a lot more hyper and a lot more
Name
wacky
a
and
fucking
energetic.
thing, an element of this movie that isn't completely arbitrary.
Well, you see, it's not arbitrary. It's like kind of, you know, not, I don't want to say anti-humor, but kind of don't do that humor, if that even makes any more sense.
Okay, I'll say this much about it. The opening, let's all go to the lobby bit,
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty funny.
that's brilliant.
I like any movie that starts off with threatening brutal violence against its audience. That had me hooked. And then it went off the rails.
About 10 minutes in, I was like, please kill me now. I
Yeah.
just didn't get it. Maybe that's why I'm too mainstream to get it. I don't know. I
This
just
show is
literally...
15 seasons. It's
Okay.
mainstream as fuck.
Here's the thing, Gloria. Do you think I'm mainstream?
Not particularly.
And I hated this.
I just didn't get it.
I would call- I would
I
call-
don't think you hating this has anything to do with you being mainstream or not.
Like, I didn't find it particularly funny. I didn't feel like there was any sort of character development. I didn't feel
Oh,
like there was
God.
any sort of, like, real plot. Yes, they were trying to eventually, after some weird Abe Lincoln scene where there was, like, cops
Yeah,
and
there's
all
no
this,
point to it.
like, just random scenes thrown in for absolutely no reason that have nothing to do with the Insano whatever exercise
Insano Flex.
machine. And it just made me want McDonald's.
Like, this movie was really for fans of this series. It's not for newcomers. The Abe Lincoln bit is kind of like an in-joke of the credits.
So it's a spin-off of Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Yes, which that spin-off didn't even air until like the show was on there for like 4 seasons because the network was like, no one's going to get this whole joke about
Okay.
chips and meatballs on them. Did you hear about the bomb scare?
What bomb scare?
The Boston bomb scare. Back before the movie came out, Adult Swim put loads of LED lights all over cities in America. And in Boston, do you know the Moonanites, the kind of Atari pixelated aliens? People saw lights have done, you know, giving the finger, and they thought it was actually bombs, and it caused a massive bomb scare in Boston, like. And Cartoon Network had to pay like €3 million of like, please don't sue us money. I thought that's interesting.
That was probably the most interesting thing about it.
Dr. Weird is one of the funniest voices I've ever heard. And that
You
was
were
dead.
saying earlier, like, oh, what about when he turned himself inside out? Like, that was just fucking weird.
But that's, I don't know, it's his voice and the actor who does it, like, he sells it, like, he sells
And
all that
then-
wackiness.
I didn't.
I'm your father, you created me. No, I'm your father, you made me. I don't remember this. Like, it literally just reads like something I would have played with Crystal, like my sister and my brother when we were younger, and he made up one bit and she made up
Yeah.
another bit and I made up another bit, and none of it made sense, but
That's
in
exactly
our heads
it.
it made sense because we were playing a stupid little game.
That's exactly it, and you've hit the nail on the head. And this is the problem. This is easy.
It's easy.
Coming up with random, arbitrary shit, and ha ha ha. It's not supposed to be funny in a conventional sense. That's why you don't get it. This is easy. Everything about this is easy.
But it's fun to see what it comes out with, though, at the end.
But what does it come out with? I didn't even know what was happening by the end of it.
Comes out with a fist fight between
There
Frylock
was
and
a
Dr.
really,
Weird.
really bossy chicken called Bill.
Yeah.
There
Bill was bossy.
Was
No,
the
he was
meat,
brittle,
was the
chicken
meat
brittle.
pod raw or what?
I'm guessing he's raw. He looks
And
like
why
burger
can he
meat.
make himself bigger?
Who, meat? What? He can change shapes and things, like. Like in the series, he turns into a hot dog and he turns into an igloo and all this shit.
And why are fries the brain? Like, it just...
Well, they have to have a straight
and
man.
at some point at the beginning of the movie they were like, oh, he's not going to be as smart now, the fries, like the...
That was your man talking shite when he was talking about the Egypt thing. Like, that was your man Shake talking shite.
Just, and then the random two little aliens.
They're in the series.
This
I know
movie is fucked up. You need to get high if you're going to watch it. That's the only way you may possibly enjoy it. I don't know if Richard was high or off his face or what when he was watching it, but...
I discovered this series when I was like 10 years old, and then I kind of had an off and on relationship with it because it has varying degrees of qualities throughout the
See,
seasons.
the problem with if you're the person who's going to watch this and enjoy it, you don't need to suggest getting high because you're already high.
Yeah, I'm already high in Jesus. They love me, Jesus. Buddy.
Look, we love you, Richard, but we just don't condone this.
Yeah,
kind
I mean, I don't know what.
viewing.
I don't know what the
You
fuck.
literally just wasted an hour and 40 minutes.
And
of
I'm
our
glad
lives.
I'm glad I did.
Look, it was directed by some asshole and some
David Williams and Match something.
Just
Its
some asshole.
budget, some fucking how, was 750 grand.
Photoshop.
I don't know where that money went. Certainly
Voice actors.
wasn't into the animation. And its box office was 5.5 million because everything means nothing and nothing means everything. And the world is a terrible place, and I think I'm just going to go out and fucking hang myself. This movie is a piss take.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
Like, let's see, can we get gullible assholes to sit and watch this?
Well,
For
they
90
got us
minutes.
That's
for it.
good. That's good. That's like Neil Hamburger, Andy Kaufman good.
Thanks, Rich.
I admire it.
I knew this film was going to be bad. My brother owns it on DVD. I went into his room to ask to borrow it, and he was like, "Oh, it's very, very funny. Anything my brother finds funny is not funny at all." I literally returned the DVD to him with the line, "I have no idea what I just watched. You can take it back. I never want to see it again."
Ever. It should be used as like a form of torture
So
when
you
they're like
don't,
training people in the army and stuff.
you don't feel like watching.
Tell us or we're gonna make you watch it again.
So is the series like any different?
Well, the series is shorter. It's 11 minutes, so like, you know, there's less kind of padding and less time wasting and stuff. And the series, again, like, very episodes differ in quality. Some are right good, some are fucking terrible, some are pure gross out. But I think there's a lot of good episodes that are worth watching.
So really, it belongs in 11 minutes short and should never gone any further.
So like, this thing airs at like
No,
11 o'clock
really
at night, you
shouldn't.
know.
Like, it almost felt like they was broken up into little kind of segments, because you'd stop it and they seemed to be on to something completely different. Like, there was a roller coaster there at some stage. It was a bit like,
Yeah, they
so
were.
what
The
did they do
little
now?
aliens were puking out of their like.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
by
yeah,
that
yeah.
point I was just seeing sounds and images that were disconnected and like
Just like,
Oh, brilliant.
yeah, very weird. Very, very weird.
15 seasons.
So, moving on to a film that is maybe just as bad but in a different way. Mr. Brooks, directed by Bruce A. Evans. Gloria, go for it.
Okay, so this is basically about like a serial killer known to the police as the thumbnail killer. It's this upholding, like, upstanding member of society is actually he's just been awarded like Man of the Year. When you see the start of the film and you see him with his beautiful wife and he's got a beautiful daughter and all this kind of stuff at the start of the film, and his name's Earl, and yeah, he basically has this kind of alter ego talking to him in the back of the car called, I think it's Marshall. And he's like, "Oh, go on, let's go watch the dancers again." And he's convinced Kevin Costner to go and look at these dancers, and then he just loses control and he shoots them, and then he gets dragged into this kind of like, this guy who has a photo of him shooting the other people is like, "Oh, I want to kill people. I got so turned on when you kill those people. Let me kill people with you." And then there's also this other subplot of the police woman who's trying to track him down and trying to find out who he is. And then there's another subplot of the fact that his daughter has just come back from college, dropped out of college, and she's pregnant and she's, you know, possibly maybe have killed someone. And he's like, "Oh no, she's just like me." So there's about 3 different storylines going on in the one movie. So it's a bit like, they don't give any substance to any subplot, really, I don't think.
Do you even think the James Cook character even makes sense?
No, not
They
at all.
don't
It's
develop
fucking
him.
atrocious.
They don't develop him at all. He's a guy who shows up who has this interest in killing that's never explained or explored, and he goes apeshit when his urge to kill is ignored. Everything about him is completely unexplained. And honestly, in all the screen time he gets, he has very little bearing on the plot. In fact, most of the characters have very little bearing on the plot because there is very little plot.
I was
there's
also very confused of how this whole, where he's talking to, is it Mitchell or Marshall, and sometimes he'd answer him out loud. Some characters act as if they can't hear him, while other characters give him looks if they can. So I was always a bit conflicted.
Did
when
they give him looks?
I never
the man
noticed
in the
that.
car
now.
gave him looks,
I just imagine it as the Malcolm in the Middle thing.
where he's
When
acting
he's
like that.
talking, then in reality he's
He's just
doing
talking
whatever.
in his head.
Yeah, people are just seeing him. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and the man in the car was definitely giving him looks, so it's just very confusing.
Here's another like fundamental problem that Mr. Brooks has, is that it's really, really poorly structured. It's like when a film starts off, you have your inciting incident, and this film has that. It's Mr. Smith saying to Mr. Brooks, "Please take me on your next kill." So the inciting incident happens, but the first plot point doesn't happen. They drive around, they don't kill anyone. They make a decision, but the decision has no bearing later on in the film. After that happens, you're supposed to get to the first pinch point, which is where characters fail or an antagonist rears their head and fucks things up for the protagonists.
Well,
that doesn't happen either.
You kind of had that with the third subplot of the daughter being a bit like, oh, I can't do what I promised this guy. I have to fly across the country in disguise to kill someone else in her college.
But that's much later in the film, and it completely comes out of nowhere.
I think that they should have explored that the plot. I thought that the plot of the daughter being just like him and treating it like an addiction, like he went to AA meetings and everything, was much more interesting than the Mr. Smith coming and being like, "Oh, I want to kill someone. I get off on it." Like,
to me, this felt like a pilot. It almost felt like there's a 13-episode series to come, because we learned so little about the characters or what they want or what they can do.
Yeah.
Why were we learning about Demi Moore's like divorce? Like, why was that really fucking important?
Oh my god!
Yeah,
Why?
that really wasn't necessary.
And it's so tedious as well. Actually, in Demi Moore's defense, she's fine at doing the human drama stuff, but as a detective, she's laughable. She's so unconvincing.
What was with that trick ending? I would have nearly preferred the daughter just to have slashed him and for it to be like...
Yeah, that would have been... I was like, oh fuck, but it was interesting, and
then no, he's just having a dream.
Here's the thing.
And what was the point? The wife was very minimal in it as well.
This was originally supposed to be a trilogy, or they had planned it to be a trilogy. So I think the next film might have explored Mr. Brooks and his daughter. So I think they both need to survive this film intact, but to just have anything at all exciting happen at the end, they tacked on this stupid pointless dream scene, which has no bearing on the plot whatsoever.
It's a cop out.
Yeah, it's just it's like the ending of like The Mist, where the priest, or The Fog, where the priest's head gets cut off for no reason. It's just like, shit, this movie is really, really boring. Plug in something exciting to happen. It can't affect the next film. I'll just fucking make it be a dream scene then.
Ooh.
Maybe that's where this film failed down. It was trying to set up too many dominoes for a second film that I presume never happened.
Yeah, and it's
It
fair.
would have been better as a series, like you said.
Well, I wouldn't have won.
Yeah, it would have been a shite series.
No, but it like
Done well, different actors.
Yeah,
Could have
it
been.
could
It's
have
a
been.
different structure.
Maybe
for
without the whole alter ego
This is
Mitchell
Dexter
guy.
without any of the appeal.
Yeah, the Topola was really boring. It was just there like, oh, he's troubled inside. Wow, cool.
Speaking
I've seen
of-
that before.
So it's not really one story, it's several mini stories that fit together really, really poorly and don't flow into each other. Like, somewhere towards, I think it's in the second act, Demi Moore gets abducted, and we get this ridiculous action scene in a van that comes out of nowhere.
Yeah,
The other person she's after,
the guy who escaped from prison.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like what were they even trying to do there? That was just confusing it all together.
There
Like-
was no clear... Like, they had tons of pieces, but they never quite worked.
Can you even think of any... Can you think of anything that Mr. Brooks actually wants to do? Does he actually have a goal that he sets out to achieve at the start of the film and then finishes it at the end?
No,
It doesn't
it's
seem
just-
like he even has anything to do.
And also, how come all of a sudden, out of nowhere? So apparently he's been like clean or whatever. He hasn't killed anyone in 2 years. Nothing happens to trigger him at all. And then all of a sudden it's go and kill someone, and then all this shit happens.
Maybe it was the pressure of becoming Man of the Year.
I don't know. It just seemed all like out of nowhere, and
That all these things happened at once.
but even the guard, like the other policeman, her partner, kind of alludes to the fact that maybe she killed her husband, and then she just kind of walks out
Yes.
and nothing happens with her. We don't even, it just makes no sense.
Well, there was no ending to this film other than
Yeah.
the fact that Mr. Smith died, and who cared about Mr. Smith?
That was
Oh,
the
yeah.
best part, seeing Dane Cook's head half cut
And here's
off.
the thing: the ending makes no goddamn fucking sense at all. It's like
None of it.
Mr.
does.
Brooks wants to end his life because he feels that his urges to kill will be a threat to his own family. Not that he'll kill them, but he doesn't want to be caught and then have it reflect badly on them. So instead of just jumping off a bridge or just cyanide or anything, he concocts this fucking convoluted plot to get Dane Cook to kill him.
Which he then backs out of as soon as Dane Cook's ready to kill him.
So the whole fucking last act is a complete and utter waste of goddamn time.
And also, how is he supposed to protect his daughter and stop her from, like, having all these urges and everything if he's dead? Because the wife seems oblivious to the fact that both of her family members are murdering cunts, like...
Lads, do you know why Kevin Costner wrote and directed The Postman? Because his acting's so wooden. Way.
Yeah. Kevin Costner started off as like
Shite.
you know, a fine sort of secondary guy. He wasn't a leading man, but he was in a lot of good films. And then his career
Was he?
progressively got sort of worse and worse and worse when he just started taking ridiculous vehicles for himself, like Waterworld and The Postman. And this was before his, you know, resurrection in that stupid Superman movie. So he was
Is
still
that even really his
he was
resurrection?
still well out in the wilderness here at this point.
Can you call that a resurrection? What else has he been in apart from Superman shite?
I'm not so much in love with the trope of splitting a serial killer into two, because I think what that kind of does is take one maybe interesting 3D character and split him into two uninteresting one-dimensional characters.
But
he
Fight
does-
Club did it.
He doesn't even argue. This is what I found weird. He just agrees with everything that the alter ego says. Like, normally if there's an alter ego in a movie, they might have like sort of a disagreement, or they might, you know, the alter ego might be like, go on, kill them, and the other one's trying to stay strong and being like, no. That literally only happens for 2 seconds in the start of the film, and then for the rest of the film he just completely agrees with everything
Yeah.
that the alter ego says.
But they use the alter ego Marshall for some really clumsy exposition as well. It's like towards the end of the film when he's concocting his plan to get Dane Cook to kill him, Marshall asks him, why would you do that? Just so Kevin Costner has a reason to explain his actions to the audience. But it's like, why would his alter ego ask him? Like, he's him. He's explaining his own plan back to himself.
Yeah, like, look, I'm sorry, it wasn't a great movie. I remember it being better 10 years ago, but to be fair, I never saw sex on television when I was 15, so the fact that there was a sex scene in it is probably why I liked it, because I was like, ooh, sex,
This-
This
scandalous.
is totally not a movie you would
So,
ever pick.
Was
though.
this the first sex scene you had seen in the film?
I don't know, probably the most explicit one I had seen.
And then they get killed.
Like I'd be like scandalous if I saw a boob or a butt cheek in a movie, like, never mind like full on, like,
All those soft cores from the 90s.
Right, do we have a budget and a...
Yeah, we made some money. I mean, it was the budget was 20 million, but and the box office was 48 million, which is
Oh.
grand, I guess, but it wasn't enough to warrant 2 sequels.
I'm surprised it meant that much, to be honest with you.
I'm surprised it wasn't a flop.
Marketing, it could have been really well marketed at the time.
I think it's because Dan Cook as well.
Dane Cook, maybe. Dane Cook was definitely a thing at the time. Okay, so moving on to the last film of this episode. It's Bug, directed by William Friedkin. Bug follows a waitress at a lesbian bar named June. She's in the middle of an abusive relationship with her husband. She's pretty lonely. She's pretty detached. Her friend sets her up with a well-meaning, maybe seemingly nice on the outside guy named Peter. They both hit it off pretty well. They both seem to connect. But June learns that Peter has some pretty dark stuff going on in his psyche, which soon starts to infect June a little bit. You could say that Peter is slightly deluded at the beginning, and then it becomes more and more deluded, and then becomes psychotic, which in turn makes June share in his psychosis, and it's one long descent into madness. I think the film's really interesting. I'm
hated
guessing
it.
you guys didn't.
I
I
think it
hated
could
it.
have
I
been-
needed for Mr. Brooks. I
Again, it was
couldn't
just
engage
weird.
in it. Like, I just couldn't. I watched it and I watched like fully focusing on nothing but this film.
No one
But I
understands
had no
life story that
attachment
really
to
takes
any of them.
anything.
And I couldn't get where the plot was going at all. Like, I figured the ex-husband being released from jail was going to be this big,
Yeah.
like, you know. But no, he was just this small little side character with very little significance in anything. And it
There's
went...
too much of a big deal made about him for his significance in the
Yeah.
actual plot of the film.
And it just went from being slow and boring and just silly to weird to weirder to just crazy. And I felt like nothing else happened. I just felt like the movie was over, big bang, explode, and I was a bit like, oh, what was the point of that?
Okay. What about the actors though? Do you think the actors turned
I
in?
didn't
I
like
only-
her.
I
Now,
o-
I think he did quite a good job acting though.
Michael
Especially when he pulled out his
She
tooth.
annoyed me. That scene made me feel
That was
sick.
horrible because it just came out of nowhere.
That was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen.
Sam, yeah.
It makes that whole toilet paper scene in what
Oh,
I
know
feel like
what
nothing. Yeah, in the last movie we reviewed, Blades of Glory. I thought that scene made me sick. This whole tooth pulling out thing. I'm like,
And
dude,
there being like an egg sack of bugs in his tooth. Like, the idea of that was just like, oh, Jesus Christ.
and there's better ways to pull out your teeth. Have you ever heard like how you put a string around it and like you know?
Yeah. There was a more subtle way. No, just go.
I think he wanted to
yank
get it out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and then also I don't feel like they had enough of a connection, enough of a strong of a bond for him to be confiding this mad shit in her straight away, and her just like, okay, Peter, don't leave me. That's probably not the right accent, but like, don't go, babe, and all this.
She
like, they
really
only,
annoyed me.
They'd only
I
known
think
each
if
other
there
about
was-
24
I
hours.
think if
so
there
they'd
was
only
a
slept
better
together
her,
once.
I might have liked it a bit more, but I really didn't like that actress. Just everything about it seems so
See,
unreal.
I really feel those two clicked, and I actually really
No.
bought them. Okay, do you remember early on
You're
in
a
the
bit
film?
psychotic.
There's a scene. They're both kind of opening up to each other for the first time, and he says, "I think I'm ready to sleep with you now," or something to that effect, and she cries.
Oh.
But you don't know if she's crying out of relief or
I think,
out of like.
honestly, if a lad said that to me, I'd be like, sorry, what? Like, you're ready to sleep with me now.
Well, I
Like,
think they made it clear, right, that she's basically desperate. And
I don't know.
I just found him very weird from the beginning. Like he repeated 4 times, "I'm not an axe murderer."
Yeah, I would like,
but he is a creepy character.
yeah, which is
Yeah.
why I don't get why the Rachel one even left him there with her in the first place. I'm sorry, but if like me and Karen were in a hotel somewhere, if she whatever her place and she didn't live with anyways, I wouldn't leave someone that creepy with her. Like, just like, bye Karen, here you go, have a good shag. Like, no, don't go near him, don't fuck him, he's a weirdo.
Okay, what about the scene where
It doesn't
tension-
where
the
did she
tension
get him from? Where did Rachel meet him?
was he not at the bar?
He was just at the bar that
Yeah.
night.
So
And
she just
she'd already
brought
known
home
for half an hour.
some randomer creepy lad who keeps repeating I'm not an axe murderer and just leaves him with her friend so she can get a bit of a fuck. Like, no. That's not what, no. It just makes no sense.
None of the movie makes sense. Like even like they put in so much backstory, like the whole Lloyd.
Yeah.
for it to go nowhere at all. Like was not
Remind
the
me.
Lloyd
what's Lloyd?
was the 6-year-old kid who
Oh, yeah.
she lost at the grocery store.
Well, it comes into play in the climax.
Why? Because
Yep.
they're... So are they deluded or did this really happen? Because if they're deluded, then it doesn't make
They're
any...
almost certainly deluded.
So, like, it
But-
really doesn't have any bearing on it because, like, they think that... So they think this was
But
all to
even-
get Lloyd to then make them mate. Like, it just...
Yeah. Because
What the
even
fuck?
Lloyd's part in their delusion makes no sense.
Why? How would getting his blood and his DNA be able to mean that they're able to implant it in her? Like, when did she get... He got implanted when he was put in the army hospital in their delusion, right?
Well, does it have
He
to
got
make...
implanted...
When they thought it made pretty sense.
But does it have to make sense to us? Because
No, I suppose not. But still, I don't.
It's a paranoid delusion.
Yeah, but I don't get the point of including the character of Light at all. Surely the abusive ex-husband was enough of a troubled past to drive that woman bonkers.
Okay, I think the climax is fine. It's definitely not my favourite part. I was happy enough with it because it just didn't break anything. I thought, okay, it went to a perfectly just acceptable conclusion.
I just hated this.
But my favourite scene was maybe about halfway through when the tension really ramps up. The bugs and are there or aren't there bugs scene? Because up until this point, there's been mentions of bugs and they might be there. They might very well be there. But
Yeah,
this
but
is.
you see her
but this
kind
is
of
the point
her
when-
pull one out of her shoulder.
Do you actually see it though?
Well, I seen something come out of her shoulder.
Well, that very well could have been freaking fucking with you because it's never explicitly said whether or not they actually are delusional. They almost certainly are.
That was one problem I had with the film. I don't like squinting.
But
at
this
films.
is something that's probably something to help you buy into their delusion, at least at first. But remember when things really started to get ramped up, and the friend goes crazy.
I had bought her to a doctor to
Yeah.
be a bit like.
Did you not think that was a really, really compelling scene? With all the
No.
crazy camera work and Michael Shannon going apeshit.
Did everyone seriously think Mike discount
And
Michael
in the,
C. Hall is a good
to me,
actor?
see,
Michael
that,
Shannon
like
is a
that
better
might have
actor than
been a
Michael
good
C. Hall.
scene,
Nah.
but individual scenes don't make an overall crappy movie better. Like, you watch a movie as a whole, I wouldn't just watch a scene movie and be like, yeah, that was a great scene.
I don't think I think a bad movie with some individual good scenes can make it better. I don't think they necessarily make it good.
Okay, well,
But
are you just holding on to the fact that you like this director, so you're like, I have to find some sort of something I can connect with?
William Friedkin has made way more bad films than he has good.
Okay, well, do
But
this
like-
rank on his bad or good, in your opinion?
I think it's a good film. I think it's a neat idea played by two really, really compelling actors.
Nah.
See, I don't think the actors were compelling. I think he was pretty good. But she just, from the second she was answered that phone, I was ready to kill her.
But I don't even get, like, it just...
Who was calling? That's one
Yeah.
thing the film never answered. Who was calling? It wasn't the ex-husband. I fully believe him that he never rang. It wasn't Bug Dude because he was in the house one time the phone rang. Who was calling them?
Her son! Mammy, pick me up from the shop.
Yeah, I believe him too, that it wasn't him, because he was like, I never called here.
Yeah.
And then they vaguely mentioned that she might have had a thing with his friend, and that's why he dumped that he ratted out his friend. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, to watch Close.
So, like, was it the friend calling?
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like for that phone to be such an annoying thing they tortured me with, they could have at least told me who was ringing.
And there was too much backstory for her, and no explanation where the fuck that fella came out of.
But I think that's the point. We're supposed to first of all believe that he's just like, someone passing
Yeah.
through, and then he's someone who used to be in the army, and then he's someone from a mental institution, we're supposed to not really know where he came out.
And did they imagine killing that guy?
Oh
the guy
no,
who
I
came in,
reckon
or
they
is that
definitely killed
real?
him, but he thinks he's a robot, so it's okay.
Like, it sounds so bizarre. Like, it's, I don't know.
I still want to know who was ringing.
Maybe it was someone from the army.
I think, like Richard said, it may
But-
have been a good movie if it was differently executed.
But why would it be
somehow.
someone from the army? The phone started ringing before he even turned up
Maybe
at their
they
apartment.
knew he was in the vicinity.
So they were ringing random apartments in the area.
I don't.
multiple times in
I'm
a row,
just. I don't think.
and not answering when
I'm just
the
playing
one was
devil's
like,
advocate.
"Jerry?"
It's not a perfect film. Like
No, it's
Nah.
not. And stuff like that just annoys me. Especially when they torture you with crickets and swirly things. And I was sick of seeing that aerial shot of the bar thing.
all right.
Like, they showed me that aerial shot like probably about 3 times, and I was literally ready to be like, I get it. They have this really shitty pub and these really shitty apartments in the middle of fucking nowhere.
And also, I find it very strange that she deteriorates so quickly. This is all a delusion. I don't buy it, because I think that if I met some lad, even if he was lovely, and I'd only slept with him once, he'd only came over to the house once, and I slept with him once, and then he started telling me that he might have AIDS and everything he told her outside the bathroom door. He's like, I might have AIDS, I might have this, I might have that, and like, he's just fucked her. And he could have given her AIDS, and she's like, "Oh, don't leave." Like, she was obviously mental to begin with in the first place.
Well, here's the thing. So she sees the bugs, or at least she thinks she sees the bugs.
she
so
doesn't
it's-
at first. He has to convince her. of it.
Yeah, but it's.
But he convinces her within like minutes.
But this is
slapping her head up.
But this is actually a genuine, observed phenomenon, and it's called folie à deux, or a shared delusion. A famous case is in England, and I think like 2007. There were these two Swedish sisters who
But
threw themselves.
sisters, they had.
They threw themselves in front of cars, and one of them actually went off to kill someone. They were completely psychotic, but what they believe is one of them was crazy, and then met up with the other one and made her crazy. See, they both had the same delusion. So this is what I think is happening in this film.
Stop making that face at me like you're
What?
like, "Oh, for God's sake, Gloria." Like, seriously, they didn't have enough of her. Like, what would you honestly do? You sleep with a girl, right? Then she goes, like, fucks off because she gets mad because you don't see a bug that's in the bed. And then she comes back 2 minutes later and you're crying in the bathroom because she's left.
The only thing that matters is you buy it, and I bought it. I thought these two actors pulled it off, and I believed it.
Okay, but 3 out of 4 of us didn't buy
I think
it.
your relationship was very, very
Sure.
Well, 60% on Rotten Tomatoes say they did.
Rotten Tomatoes and a bunch of teenagers who think Christopher Nolan's the best director ever.
So it only cost $4 million to make,
I could
and it
have
got
done
a very very limited release. And I suspect they only planned on making their money back, but they actually did make a small profit. They made $8 million, so good for them, I guess. And actually, these two guys, Terry Letts, who was the writer, and William Friedkin, they teamed up to make another really good film. I think around 2011 or 2012 called Killer Joe, which if you haven't
That's
watched
class.
it, you should probably watch it.
Yeah, that's actually class.
So
Fucked up though.
that brings us to the end of the 4 films that we're covering on this episode. But it's a bit of a special occasion because it's our 10th episode
Woohoo!
in what feels like 10 years.
Well, in fairness, it's taken us a while to get here, like.
And in those 10 episodes, we have watched and talked about some 40 films. And they are
Oh, I'm not going to read
Oh
the
my
whole
God,
list
you're
there.
not reading the whole
For
list?
fuck's sake.
Mean Girls, Kill Bill Volume 2, Man on Fire, Shaun of the Dead, Shrek 2, Raising Hell, Van Helsing, Prisoner of Azkaban, Saw, Raise Your Voice, Shark Tale, Team America, A Bittersweet Life, Sahara, A Lot Like Love, The Amityville Horror, Monster-in-Law, Madagascar, The Longest Yard, Unleashed, War of the Worlds, Cinderella Man, Land of the Dead, Batman Begins, Goblet of Fire, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, Brokeback Mountain, Serenity, The Holiday, Paprika, Crank, Stranger Than Fiction, Hot Fuzz, Bridge to Terabithia, Blades of Glory, Zodiac, Ratatouille, Aqua Teen, Hunger Force, and Bug and Mr. Brooks. Guys, there's a lot of great films on that list. And there's a lot of shit films on that list. This is a hard question, but I would like, in celebration of the 10 episodes, and here's to 10 more, I would like you to tell me your overall least favourite film and your favourite film. Who wants to go first?
I don't mind going first.
Gloria, go for it.
My least favourite film is Aqua Teen Hunger Force : whatever the fuck. Because I just didn't get it. It just literally made no sense to me. Like, I wouldn't even have it on as background noise, to be quite honest with you.
You watch it with any kids?
Here's the thing.
No.
about
You
Aqua-
said not to.
No.
You literally said don't watch that anywhere near kids, and I don't think there was actually anything that particularly bad in it for children. Like, I've seen some of the shit they watch on Cartoon Network. It's fucking, that's weird as well, but this was just beyond weird. I just couldn't connect with any single character in it.
I connected.
But here's the thing. I would almost see. I don't even think of it as a film. I don't even know if it qualifies.
Wow.
But it's on your list, so it qualifies. So that's my worst one.
Well, it's only on the list because Richard.
And my
picked
best
it,
one, I'm kind of stuck between two because I love Bridge to Terabithia. I think it's a lovely film. It's a lovely film to watch with kids. It's just a really like heart-wrenching, like heartfelt film. But I'd already seen it before we did the podcast, and I think Zodiac would be my favourite other than that because it was something new that I had because it's something new that I had never watched before, and I discovered it through this journey of our podcast. So yeah, Zodiac would be my favourite.
I really don't know. If Aqua Teen Hunger Force doesn't count as a movie, I'm going to go for Monster-in-Law, as I had to remind what in the world Monster-in-Law was. As for favourite, I have too many, but I'm going to go with Hot Fuzz.
Well, for least favourite, that's fairly obvious. It's A Lot Like Love. It was fucking awful. And I was kind of stuck between Hot Fuzz and Paprika, but I'm just going to say Paprika because Karen picked Hot Fuzz.
I've been dancing around what the worst film is since we began. It's always stuck in my mind. The first one that I really disliked was Man on Fire, but that was quickly overthrown by Raise Your Voice. For the longest time I had Monster-in-Law. I think that was our worst one, but when I really look back on it, Monster-in-Law is tedious, but it's also pretty inoffensive. And man, A Lot Like Love, the characters in that film are so fucking dislikable. It's a really fucking repugnant film. I'm sorry. So I'm going to go with A Lot Like Love as the worst. And I'm going to concur with my colleague that Zodiac is the best.
Yeah.
To probably the surprise of no one here. Because you all know I really like Zodiac.
I'm surprised
Yeah,
you didn't
but
pick
man,
Vogue, to be honest
Looking
with
back
you.
on that list, looking back on that list, there are some great films we've watched. I mean, Prisoner of Azkaban is really good.
Team America.
Kill
Yeah,
Bill
yeah,
1
Kill-
and 2 was really good.
Cinderella Man is really good.
Shite.
Serenity is really good. Hot Fuzz, great. Bridge to Terabithia, I really liked.
Crank.
You know, there's a lot of films on this list that I would recommend.
And there's a lot that we wouldn't.
But let's we told people what to avoid.
Guys, do you think
We've also, every podcast we like do major spoilers. Like, there's literally no point of listening to this podcast to watch movies. It's just to hear what shite we have to say about them.
Oh man, it's taken us, I think, what, 3-4 years to do 40 movies. Do you
Three.
think? Do you think we'll do 40 more?
Hopefully.
Yeah, if I'm still alive.
Let's do it, guys.
We'll see.
Well, we're not watching any more than 4 an episode because this week nearly killed me.
We'll do it 2 weeks in advance.
I watched Aqua
Gloria.
Teen Hunger Force, whatever the fuck, and I also watched Bug on the same day, one after the other.
Well,
My mind was fried.
Who'd you have
I
to
did
blame for
something
that?
similar.
This isn't.
I watched Mr. Brooks, followed by Bug, so I had gone from one crazy psycho to another.
This is interesting. Has there ever been an episode where we've been more divided?
I don't think so, actually.
Because you like Aqua Teen Hunger Bollocks.
Yeah.
The rest of us hated it. I liked Bug. The rest of you hated it. I don't think there's ever been an
Me and
episode.
Karen aren't divided. We're pretty
No.
much solid on everything.
We agree, so it's fine.
You all agree on Ratatouille, and I think it's fucking...
That.
You all agree Ratatouille's good, but I think that it's better than good.
But has there ever been?
I like that.
Has there ever been an episode where one of us really liked a film? I'm talking about really liked it, and the rest of us hated it. I don't think
I
so.
didn't mind
I
A
really
Lot
liked
Love,
Frank.
and you all hated it.
Oh, I fucking hate that shit.
I think I'm the one who picked it.
Disgusting.
Definitely the one who picked it.
Oh yeah, you definitely.
You
picked
definitely
it.
picked... If it has love in the title, you picked it.
Mr. Brooks, come on!
Yeah, that is a fucking left field for you. I don't get it. It must have been on Netflix.
It was. That's literally the criteria for picking the films for me. It's like, is it on Netflix or can I rent it on YouTube or whatever?
Okay. So that brings us to the end of our 10th episode. You all know the deal by now. Subscribe to our Facebook page if you want.
Do.
This
Do it whether you want to or not.
You can unfollow us, just like us, the numbers matter.
It would be nice if you do. If you do, there's...
Richard the Flashy.
If you like this and you want us to make 10 more episodes of the Decade Out podcast, subscribe. Go on. What will it hurt? But until our next episode, it's once again, goodbye from me, Connor Curie.
Goodbye from me, Gloria Shannon.
Goodbye from me, Karen O'Sullivan.
And goodbye from me, Meatwad.